Friedrich Hayek wrote The Road to Serfdom 67 years ago. We're still not serfs, but his government keeps growing. We are getting closer, sadly. And of course, it could be worse. We could be like Europe, says Daniel Hannan. He's a member of the European Parliament and author of the book, The New Road to Serfdom, a letter of warning to America. So, Daniel, what are you warning us about?
Well, you know what? I mean, since he wrote that book, things have got worse. I mean, we've won the battle of ideas.
I thought we had.
I think we have.
The Soviet Union went down.
The Soviet Union went down, and almost nobody in the West argues from first principles for centralized planning, state control of the economy. But all the time that we've been winning that battle, we've been losing the battle of implementation. The share of wealth taken by the state has gone up. We have more regulation, higher taxes, higher borrowing. And so we need to find a way to translate that victory ideologically into public policy, and so far we haven't been able to do it.
Yeah, you say central planning has been defeated, but Obamacare is pretty much central planning.
Here's my point, right? The inertia of the government machine makes those things happen. You have a situation where the elected politician is kind of encased by this huge state machine. He's jabbing at buttons that have long since been disconnected. He's tugging at levers that have worked loose. Whatever he does, the system keeps growing, because the truth is that there are so many people now working in the system and with a vested interest in higher and higher budgets that it's become almost free of democratic scrutiny.
All right, let me play devil's advocate. So what? Government grows, people get taken care of. Europe works pretty well. The poor are taken care of. People are guaranteed vacation. Sounds nice.
Right. In the short term, what's not to like? You know, maternity leave, paternity leave, long vacations, higher salaries, minimum wage. In the long term, the money runs out.
Let me say to my audience that the only reason I know who Daniel Hannan isn't because he's a member of the European Parliament. I've never heard of members of the European Parliament. It's because one day when the cameras were rolling in Parliament and the Prime Minister of England had just spoken, Hannan stood up and said this to him.
The truth, Prime Minister, is that you have run out of our money. The country as a whole is now in negative equity. Every British child is born owing around £20,000. We are now running a deficit that touches 10% of GDP, an almost unbelievable figure. More than Pakistan, more than Hungary, countries where the IMF has already been called in. Now, it's not that you're not apologising. Like everyone else, I've long accepted that you're pathologically incapable of accepting responsibility for these things. It's that you're carrying on, willfully worsening our situation, wantonly spending what little we have left.
Now, that clip's been watched now on YouTube almost 3 million times. And Daniel, I have to say, that's weird. You're no movie star. Why are people so interested?
You know, search me. I agree with you. Listen, I'm a member of the European Parliament, and I think that about the 3 most boring words you could type into a search engine would be speech European Parliament. So, I don't know. But you know what? It's got worse since then. In the EU, we are being required to bail out whole countries in order to keep the whole process going. Of course, what's happening is, I mean, it's a racket. The bailout money is going to European bankers and bondholders. The repayment is coming from ordinary taxpayers.
You write, paying people to be poor created more poor people. We don't really pay people to be poor, do we?
Well, if you run an economic system based around taking money away from wealthy people and giving it to poor people, you end up with fewer wealthy people and more poor people. If you pay people enough not to work, you trap them in the wretchedness and dependency of squalor. And that, you know, the real loser from that is not the taxpayer, it's the person who is locked into a way of thinking where work is no longer part of his horizons.
You say Europe is dying. Doesn't look like it's dying. Everybody wants to go there.
Look, it's a nice place to visit, but there are fewer and fewer babies. And one of the results of this is that we face a choice between massive, unprecedented depopulation or massive and unprecedented immigration. And both of those options bring serious challenges of their own.